So this one's going to be a doozy, I think. So I was 28, which is about 10 years ago now. Realistically, more 11. But in 2014, I lost my dad. He passed when I was 28. And it was one of those things that you know is going to happen, but you'd never think it's going to happen, if that makes sense. And I have to say that we were kind of shocked by it, mainly because preceding that, yeah, preceding up to that point, he actually had been sick and was getting better. So he had some like fluid and in his legs and some other issues that he was in the hospital for a really long time, and it kind of made him out of it. And he kind of was clicking back in at that point. And he was actually like walking, trying to actively get rid of the fluid, because it wasn't like you can't just like drain it. It had to be like worked out. I don't really understand it, but he was like actively walking around the neighborhood, trying to get in shape again, trying to like make an effort to get better. And then out of nowhere, he kind of just died. And it's never a great situation. It's always a terrible situation when something like that happens, but this was pretty bad. Like, my brother had just graduated. It was right around the time too. It was within days of my brother's birthday, and he had graduated, I think, that summer. So he had just graduated nursing school, and he came out to the deck where my dad liked to sit. After he had gotten sick and was getting better, he'd like to sit out on the porch and kind of just sit in the sun and just relax. Came out and found my dad non-responsive. So he actually, I wasn't home. I think I was at work, or I was at my apartment at the time. He was living at home, and he performed CPR on my dad. I think my mom called the ambulance. They took him to the hospital, which I think they took him to the nicer hospital locally, and because we had some issues with the other hospital previously from what he was recovering from, like they weren't releasing him. There was a lot of issues. Anyways, it's the hospital my brother now works out now, and it's a great hospital. We took my son there right before our Disney trip because he had lung issues. They have a great children's hospital, really great. Anyways, forgot to turn that on silent. Anyways, I mean, we never saw it coming. Not really. We thought we were on the upswing, and then it just kind of like the ground moved out from underneath us. So it's one of those things that you know will happen someday, but again, you don't think. You always assume you have more time, and even if you're like, well, it could happen, it might happen. This might be something that happens within the next 6 months, year, whatever it might be. You always in the back of your mind, I feel like you're like, well, there's always a chance it might not. And it's interesting the level of, I guess you'd call it, denial of that. So unfortunately, back in 2014, it was, we lived in the house I grew up in, and we went to the church that he was a big part of. Both my parents were actually big parts of. He was on the financial committee. My mom did a lot of the children's education stuff. Not the youth group, but like the younger kids curriculum and stuff like that. And like I didn't have to, like my brother didn't. But I had to like get up there and like write a speech. And I think we talked about this in another video. I am not a great public speaker. I'm terrible. I can't stand it. But in this instance, I forced myself to go up and do it. I had a piece of paper I was able to read off of, and granted, everyone had a low expectation of like me being able to make it through it, and I struggled for sure. But I had a great speech laid out, and somewhere I have it saved. I want to go back and look at that speech. I had it saved on a tablet, and I think I had technical problems with it, so I ended up having to print it out. But the draft is somewhere on a computer, somewhere in storage, and I'd love to get that back out and just kind of look over what it was. I remember the gist of it, and we actually, oddly enough, I think we have a recording. The church recorded the service for him. So I think we have a recording somewhere too, so I could probably go back and listen to that. But what's interesting, or the real sucky part is like, we were starting to reconnect. Not that we ever drifted apart, but there was always this like, I don't know that I was mature enough to have a good relationship or a deep relationship with my dad, and it was starting to get there. My dad did a lot of work. He did long hours, and he provided a really great life for us. And I'd like to do that for our kids too. Now, the difference is that with our combined incomes, we probably make more than what he did, and we're still not, inflation and things like that. So we're getting there, but as of right now, I don't think we're at that comfort level that we were at when we were growing up. And, looking back at it, like, going back to like having that sliver of hope, like we knew when he was picked up at the house, or at least I was told, because again I wasn't there, that he was non-responsive, and there's a lot of medical terms that like you don't necessarily understand if you don't have a medical degree or if you're not used to it. Like my brother pretty much knew what was going on. Non-responsive for us regular folk was just like, oh, well, he's not conscious. That could also be not breathing. It could be a lot of things. And I know when he got to the hospital, they were, working on kind of resuscitating him. But I believe it was basically he was gone by the time he got to the hospital, possibly even by the time they picked him up. But I don't really know for sure. Because I don't know how much time was in between. We actually lived close to an ambulance station or whatever it might be. So I believe they got out there pretty quick. But I remember sitting in the waiting room with like I don't know if there were other people in there or not. There might have been actually, like another family. And like when they come out and tell you, like, even when you're waiting in there, you have hopes like, okay, this might not be happening. This might not be real. This might be another false alarm like we just experienced like a couple months ago. And when it turns out that it isn't, the feeling is, it's almost, I think it is, it's undescribable. Like, it's like getting the wind knocked out of you and just like all hope in that moment is gone. And it's one of those things that's like, I think everybody will experience it at one point in their life, and you just don't realize how much that's going to affect you. One of the things that they did is they gave us the opportunity to like see him one last time. My brother, having a medical degree, was like, no, I'm good. And I was starting to, it was a little bit before they asked us that. I decided not to. I don't regret that at all. I had seen him the day before, I believe. We kind of had a conversation, but nothing major, because again, we thought that we were out of the woods. We thought we were clear. And my mom at the time decided that she wanted to see him one last time, and she was gone for a little bit. I don't know where he was or how far in the emergency room he was, but when she came back out, she had almost immediately regretted doing that. So I'm glad I didn't. I don't do well with stuff like that, as far as seeing things that are deceased. So I don't regret it. I do regret not spending more time. Right after that, within a month or two, our family dog died. She was very upset about it as well. She was also older and had a little health conditions, but that was like the insult to injury as well. So like she passed a month and a half maybe after he did, and then we ended up. I think we ended up moving my mom into a house across the street because my grandma moved in. We moved her from where she lived into this bigger house that had an in-law. Essentially, it had an in-law house attached to it. It wasn't even a suite. It was a house. And she was there from, I think, 2014 to 2019-ish, because she actually met my son. I met my wife in 2016, we got married in 17, and then my son was born in 19, and my daughter was born in 20. But my son, at a very young age, like infant, met my grandma before she passed. So at this point, we've experienced a lot of like death in the family, at least on my side. On my wife's side, they handle it very differently, which is fine. It's everyone to their own. But one of the things that I've tried to do with our kids now is kind of set them up for that. And by that I mean like prepare them. And you can never be fully prepared, but like we never, growing up, were prepared for that. We didn't talk about it. We kind of avoided it. We kind of talked about things like afterlife and then things like that, like with church and things, but we never like emotionally had talked about like how to handle it, how to like that it's going to happen one day and things like that. And again, I don't think there's anything that'll prepare you for that. I really don't. But I think we would have been in a better situation if we had talked about it at least. So our kids now are 4 and 6, and I talk to them about it, not regularly, but a little bit here and there, like just to, bring up the topic of it. So, God forbid something happens and, as we get older, our health gets worse. It just does. Blood pressure, sugar levels, just everything. It seems to get worse. Things like salt give you a hangover. That didn't happen before. So I want to kind of prepare them, and I think that's the job, is to prepare your kids for the world. But I think it's also important to prepare them for the end, if that makes any sense. I don't know. I had wished I had been a little more prepared for it. Having so many things happen in the last 10 years, call it, I now kind of understand that, and I'm not going to say I'm okay with it, but I think I kind of know more now what to expect, so I don't fear it as much. Of course I fear it, but I don't, I'm comfortable with being able to talk about it now, whereas my wife can't handle that. She shuts down. It makes her super uncomfortable. And I want our kids to be able to kind of handle those emotions when the time comes. I think that's something that needs to be taught. So I've been working with them on that. And I think hopefully when that time comes, as morbid as that sounds, it won't destroy them. It'll hurt, but they'll work through it. And that's the goal. That's what I want. I want to make sure that they are equipped to handle those potentially the darkest moment in their life.